Let's talk about the 5 best stocks to buy right now. We saw a decent market bounce come out of this market today. It's not unusual. We've seen it before over the last couple of weeks, and each time it's been a one-off event. We haven't seen that continuation to the downside. So when I'm making a video about the 5 best stocks, obviously it's the ones that I'm finding right now the most intriguing. Could there be better stocks out there? Absolutely. These aren't going to be like the absolute top 5 stocks in terms of gains tomorrow. But there are setups that I like from a reward risk standpoint and has some profit opportunity there. So if the market doesn't bounce going forward, there's a good chance that these stocks aren't going to bounce either, because stocks in general are heavily influenced by the overall direction of the market. So if you don't have a good market bounce that can continue into day 2, a lot of these stocks are going to struggle. So what we're looking for at the very least is a dead cat bounce that can show that this market has more power, more buying interests going forward that can propel these stocks higher. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with JETS, Jets. It's a pretty simple setup. I'm going to use a Fibonacci retracement on this one. For those who are not familiar with it, it's simply a retracing tool that shows you using Fibonacci math where a stock is likely to bounce at. Has a history tied into rabbits and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into it here, but it's easily Googleable, and you can check that out. So 38.2% retracement. You can see where we got right down to that level yesterday, and we bounced off of it today. The whole airline industry has been very, very bullish of late. This run off of the August lows was otherworldly. I mean, it was just nonstop. If you look at it from a weekly standpoint, it could hardly put in a pullback at all over the course of 4 or 5 months. Well, now we finally have gotten that pullback, and it's pulled back to a 38.2% retracement, holding that level and starting to show signs of bouncing, which is bullish in and of itself. So if I'm playing this one, obviously I'm going to be putting my stop loss below the previous day's lows and trying to play that bounce back up to 27. Pretty simple approach there. The next one is Caterpillar, CAT. Now we're going to go all the way back to 2022 for this one. You have a rising trend line. Don't want to block it there with my big head. A rising trend line that goes all the way back, and it touches this trend line yesterday perfectly. So going all the way back to, what is that, about September 2022? Yeah, we got another test in June of 23, and again in November of 23. And yesterday we touched it again and bounced. Pretty hard bounce off of it, 3.5%. Again, simple approach would be stop loss below the rising trend line. If it breaks below the rising trend line and closes below it, or breaks below yesterday's lows, I want nothing to do with it. But the potential for there to be a return back to maybe even just like the 360, 370 area looms very large for the stock. I think it's a pretty good, simple approach to trading and trying to capitalize on a potential market bounce. Here we got another one with TTD. Man, this sucker has been getting lit up of late. But what do we got here? We want to go all the way back to 2020. Yeah, man, we're going back to a long time ago. And it's finally returned to this trend line. Now, you can see where it kind of breaches. If you can look real closely, it breaches below this trend line. So let's look at it from a weekly standpoint, just to condense some of this information together a little bit tighter. And you have a very nice rising trend line of higher highs. So when we bounced off of this level here, we actually did form a higher high before coming all the way back down in dramatic fashion to this trend line. So at 65, I would be looking for this bounce. Now, the things that I look for in a bounce play, it needs to show that it can test it, which it's doing right here, hold it so far, and then bounce. We haven't seen that yet. So test, hold, and bounce. If we can get that bounce, it does set up as a potential play to the upside that can yield some really good results. But again, if it breaks below the rising trend line, you've got to cut the losses. You can't hold on to these trades just because you want them to go up. Sometimes they don't go up the way you want them to. So keep that in mind with a stock like TTD that's already dropped from $140 down to $66 a share. It has been a very dramatic fall, and maybe there's still more to go. But if you can get that bounce to materialize, may worth be trying to throw some capital at. Finally, and this is one that I got into, Meta. Yes, it's been on an incredible run of late. We had this like 20-day run here, and then we had a dramatic pullback here, giving up much of those gains. But check out how well it sets up here. I really like this one a lot. And this is a trade that I could be out of tomorrow. If the market doesn't behave, why would I continue to try to force the issue? I need to see continuation from the market, because if the market doesn't do well tomorrow, there's a good chance that Meta is going to pull back with it, just like all these other stocks as well. So you want to see that market continuation. Again, doesn't happen, or we start to see heavy selling again that takes us below today's lows. Good reason to go ahead and get out of stocks in general. So this rising trend line that held, tested, held, bounced, got the follow through today. It looks really solid there. And then it also tested this price level support at 623, held that as well. So if it breaks back down below yesterday's lows, good reason to go ahead and jump out of that trade. But overall, really like how this one's materialized. So there you have it. You have 5 decent trade setups. You have JETS, JETS, you have TTD, you have DDOG, you have Meta, and then you have Caterpillar, CAT. Hopefully, if you take a stab at either one of these or all of them or none of them, whatever it might happen, make sure that you manage the risk. That's the key to all of trading. Manage the risk. Know where you're going to get out before you ever get in, because like any trade setup, they don't always work. And if they don't work, you want to make sure you have an exit plan. You don't want to backhold. If you enjoyed this video, I would encourage you to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below, what stocks are you targeting for a market bounce? Which ones have caught your eye, and which ones are you looking to play to the upside? I would love to hear them. Maybe you can give me a good trade idea here to work with. Love to hear what you have to say. Thank you guys, and God bless.